Hmm.
I saw the chairperson for a moment. Hopefully he just fell off for a sec. Let's give the chairperson just a couple of more moments to get on. If not, we'll have our Vice Chair, Commissioner Soroyan, lead the meeting. So does 3 minutes?
I'm here, guys.
Oh,
I can't,
okay.
for some reason, and that's why I went off and came back. I can't get my camera to work. It may be, I had a couple of Zoom calls earlier today, and it may be that for some reason it's not closed that, and it's not letting me access the camera for this. I don't know, since I'm going from Zoom to Google Meeting, so.
You know, the old story, Mike, is turn it off and reboot it.
Yeah, I know. Well, and that's, you know, if I had the time to do that. So I may at some point do that, but why don't we get started? And I'm happy to be looking at all of you, and you don't really need to look at me anyway, so. Okay, so call the meeting to order. Leslie, would you give us a roll call, please?
Yes, Sarah Burling. Sarah, you're muted. So the button underneath the bottom. Oh, no, Michael Cadell.
Here.
Darlene Mosley.
Here.
J.C. Myers.
Here.
Al Soroyan.
Here.
All present. Thank you.
Good. Okay, we have 2 items of extraordinary business. The wildfire prevention plan for Pescadero Canyon. We're going to get an update on that, I guess, from Public Works Director Harari. Is that right?
Bob, you're on mute.
I had such a good line too, and now I forgot what I said. This item was requested by your commission at the last meeting, requesting to get more information about Pescadero Canyon and fire prevention and fire suppression, those types of things. Chief Panholzer from the city of Monterey was kind enough to volunteer to join us today and give us his presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Panholzer.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you all, first of all, for making me feel a little better about my struggles with this Google Zoom and everything else. And I'm going to now see if I can successfully present the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, it tells me I'm presenting.
You look great, and we can see it.
Good.
Okay, and you can see it. All right, so we're in good shape here. So thank you for inviting me to your meeting here to talk a little bit about Pescadero Canyon and fire safety in that particular location north flank of the city. I think if we're going to start talking about wildland fire safety, one of the key things we need to do is understand a little bit about what causes wildfires to become a problem. And wildfires primarily, the behavior of wildfires is primarily based on three factors: weather, topography, and fuel. We'll talk a little bit about how each one of those applies to the Pescadero Canyon area. And that kind of helps us understand what we can do then to mitigate the risk of wildfires. So weather influences fire behavior. Predominantly, fire is driven by winds. That's the biggest significance of weather in fire behavior. Also, relative humidity determines how dry fuels are. And of course, hot days preheat the fuel. So the combination of those three factors can increase the risk of fire and also the severity of a fire that may happen if those conditions are right. Fortunately for us, weather is not our biggest factor that drives our fire danger, because locally we do not typically experience the prolonged periods of high temperatures. It's unusual for temperatures to be in the 90s in Carmel and very rare for it to get over 100, which is not true for many other parts of the state and true for those areas where we've seen some of the devastating fires. The other thing that's really big in the state of California is we get the hot, dry offshore winds, which you may have heard called phone winds or the Santa Anas, real common in Southern California. And those are the air masses that are over the desert, the inland deserts, and they get heated and dried out, and then they move towards the ocean and create some really terrible wind conditions that can really exacerbate fire, both fire behavior, but also the risk of fire. And they're still dealing with the tail end of that down in Southern California. There are still actually 2 significant fires burning down there right now. Anybody that's lived down there or is familiar with the area down there knows that the fall is always a very dangerous time of year. Fortunately, we don't see those as predominant wind patterns here as well. But I do have to say that unfortunately, we're dealing with this thing called climate change, and weather is becoming much more of a factor everywhere in the state of California. Hence, that's one of the big factors related to why we've had such a horrible fire season this year. Talking about topography, the factors that impact wildfire behavior with respect to the topography is one is slope. The steeper slopes, fires like to burn uphill. The fire can kind of preheat the fuel up the hill from itself. And so we see fires burning very rapidly upslope and very slowly downslope. Canyons and chutes provide kind of a natural chimney for the fire to follow. So we see very intense fire behavior heading up canyon. So that's one of the big factors that impacts the risk in Pescadero Canyon, because it is a very narrow canyon with a very steep slope on the south side and a fairly steep slope on the north side. So that can drive the fire. And we'll look at a diagram here in a minute to see that. The other big factor is aspect, and that's the direction that a slope faces. So the part of the canyon that's on the Pebble Beach side is a south-facing slope. So it has a south aspect. It's on the north side of the canyon, but it faces the south. And because of the fact that the sun is always more in the south in our sky, they get more light, but they also, and so they get more heat and the summer and the sun. So that impacts a lot of how the vegetation grows and dries out. The north-facing slope, which is the Carmel side of the canyon, typically get more moisture, and they stay moister because the sun doesn't hit them directly, and so they don't dry out quite as much. And we'll actually see that in some pictures that I have. The other thing about fuel is basically fuel is anything that can burn in a wildland fire, and we've come to see that it is very much the homes in the area in a wildland urban interface as much as it is the fuel. As a matter of fact, if you look at what happened up in Paradise, a lot of the fire spread from house to house to house and left the trees intact. There's still areas of the forest that are intact, and all the homes in that area are burnt to the ground. So a big factor to consider too is how do we build our homes, and out of what materials, and how fire resistive can we make our homes? And I'll address that a little bit more later too. The other factors of fuels is grasses are light, what we call flashy fuels. They're much more receptive to a fire start. It's when you build a fire in your fireplace, you don't put a big log in there and take a match to it. You put kindling in, and then the bigger fuels on top. The same thing happens in a wildland fire situation. It's the smaller fuels that are more receptive to initiating a fire and then burning. And a big part of that is because they dry out faster. You see the grasses turn brown right at the beginning of the summer, and the trees and some of the heavier vegetation holds its moisture much longer. Heavy fuels need a more sustained and intense fire to ignite. Once they do, though, they also contribute to the more intense fire and are much more difficult to control a fire in. The other thing is where is the fuel located? Ground fuels, so things that are growing directly on the ground, like the grass and low brush, more likely to ignite and spread fires. Very often we'll see the aerial fuels or the forest canopy be unscathed when a fire burns through, because fire burns through fast and not enough heat gets up to the canopy of the trees to cause it to get ignited. And so, which is a good thing, because if a fire burns in the canopy, it becomes much more difficult to fight and is much more threatening to devastating spread. So one of the big concerns we have is what we call ladder fuels, and those are those fuels that kind of grow in between the ground and the canopy that could carry a fire from the ground fuels up into the canopy of the trees. That's hence when we do defensible space inspections, one of the things we tell you to do is trim branches that are like at least up 6 feet up your trees. Trim all the branches out so that if something's burning on the ground underneath that tree, it's not likely to carry up into the canopy of that tree. So if we take a look at Pescadero Canyon and where it lays, it turns out that the city limit line kind of follows the bottom of the canyon through there. And you can even see from this aerial satellite picture how much lighter in color the north side of the canyon is than the south side of the canyon. That's in part because of how the sunlight is hitting it when the picture was taken, but it also reflects the heavier vegetation on the south side of the canyon than on the north side of the canyon. And so we see that the north side is our south aspect and the south side is our north aspect. And if we look at now how we might expect, based on terrain only, so only on the topography, how is a fire likely to travel through that canyon? This is what I would expect to see, that the fire would travel predominantly up the canyon. We'd probably see some spread up through the drier fuels on the north side of the canyon more readily. That's not to say that fire isn't going to come up the south slopes in towards Carmel, but it's certainly not going to burn that direction as fast as in the other directions. So those are all things that work to our favor as residents at Carmel, and on being on the south side of that canyon, but certainly doesn't completely mitigate any of the risk. If we look at the fuel, this picture was taken, and these pictures were all taken earlier this week. So this is actual conditions that are true today. This is the Carmel side of the canyon. You see the heavier, it's kind of that bramble bush and ivy and the pine forest is what the fuels consist of on the north aspect, so the north-facing slope of the Carmel side of the canyon. This type of fuel is less likely to ignite and spread rapidly. If we look on the Pebble Beach side, this is the kind of fuel you see on that side. The grass is brown. It's mostly grassy fuels, and this has an oak canopy there. And you can see in the back of the picture, you can kind of see where this is back on the north side, and you can see the heavier green fuels there. As I said, this picture was taken, I believe I took them on Tuesday of this week. And so it's current conditions, and you see there's a little bit of green in the grass, but it's mostly still dry because we haven't really received any appreciable rain. And this being a south aspect is not going to moisten up very fast, because as soon as the sun comes out, it's going to dry everything out again. So what do we do to prevent the risk of wildfire in the canyon? Well, there's kind of a three-pronged approach. We work very closely with the Public Works and the city forester on a fuel reduction program on the city-owned property. The city can only do work on the property that it owns, and so parts of the canyon property are within city-owned property. Everything along 2nd Street there in the right-of-way is the responsibility of the city. We also coordinate our efforts with the Pebble Beach Community Services District, which they get fire services provided by CAL FIRE, and we have a very close working relationship with them. And then the fire department, we also go out and do an annual defensible space inspection. So you can see some of the efforts of Public Works mowing. The mowing was all done, it's not done since the summer. This was done, and Bob, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was done like in late spring, early summer. And you can still see the efforts of the mowing. They try to go down the slope a good 15, 20 feet, and you can see that that's still intact because we haven't had any appreciable rainfall for any regrowth of the vegetation. But given that it's a north aspect, this portion area, there's a little portion kind of at the upper end of the closed area of 2nd Street where there's a grassy patch, and you can see that grass is already back into growth because it's on the north facing aspect on the south side of the canyon, and so it's going to retain its moisture because it doesn't get dried out as well, and so you're going to see more appreciable growth going there, and that's an area that's going to require to be mowed again on an annual basis for sure. The other thing, like I said, is we coordinate efforts. The canyon property is owned in part by Carmel, in part by Pebble Beach, in part by the Del Monte Forest Conservancy, and in part is private land. And so we work with all the various property owners. And one of the things that we've fortunately kind of reached agreement on is we're not going to be concerned when we're doing mitigation efforts in there as to where the actual property lines are. So when the Pebble Beach Company, they brought goats into the upper portion of the Pescadero Canyon, which is beyond the portion that borders the city. And they actually were going to try and bring the goats down into this portion of the canyon, but we weren't able to get that done. I believe especially the slopes on the Carmel side might have been too steep for the goats to work, and so the goat herd said that he couldn't bring the goats down there. We're still trying to find some other way to get those steep slopes cleared a bit, but it's real challenging, and it's very dangerous to work in that area because of how steep the slope is on the Carmel side of the canyon. But they did the work on their side of the canyon and came up into our parts of the canyon where it was easy for them to do without regard to where the actual property lines are. So we have a really good cooperative relationship with all the property owners in the canyon area. The last thing that I mentioned that we do is we do the defensible space inspections. The firefighters that are stationed in the Carmel Fire Station visited every single property in the city of Carmel over the course of the month. We did this, I believe it was in July that we were doing these inspections, June, July timeframe, and looked at every property in Carmel and said, is the property owner doing what's necessary to make this home defensible? And that includes clearing of fuels in various zones around the property. And you see in this picture the immediate zone where you should have nothing combustible, nothing flammable at all, is that 0 to 5 feet space. And then the 5 to 30 foot space, we look to do the pruning of the trees and the cutting back of non-ornamental vegetation. If you go much beyond the 30 foot in Carmel, you're in the neighbor's property. So there's not much concern there about doing it in the extended zone because most properties don't have that much property around the home. If you're interested in seeing what we've done, you can go to our website, which is www.monterey.org/fire, and you can actually pull, this is a screenshot from what you find on the website. You have to scroll on the map to the portion that covers Carmel, because you'll see all of our jurisdictions, Monterey and Pacific Grove as well. And each parcel, you can't really tell for sure on this map, but each parcel, it has a little status situation, and you can see, fortunately, the predominant color here is green, which is a good thing, which means that the parcel passed the defensible space inspection. If it needed some work, then we would contact the property owner and ask them to do the necessary work, and we would assist them with guidance as to what the work is that needs to be done in an effort to make the homes in Carmel more defensible in the event of a fire. So those are kind of the three prongs that we've used to create some fire safety in the entire community, but particularly some of the things we've done in the Pescadero Canyon area. And so that is the kind of an update. And certainly if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
questions from the commission? And I'm not sure, Bob, since this is an extraordinary business item and was not, I'm not sure, noticed properly, would it be appropriate to invite public comment at this time or reserve that for a later meeting?
It was properly noticed. You could open it up to the public, or your committee can certainly ask questions. It's up to, I believe it's up to you to whether or not to open up to public, but it's always good practice to do so.
Okay, well, I think why don't we have, if there are any questions from the commission first, and then we can open it up to the public for comment.
I have a question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
That is, what about where the trees actually touch the houses? Should it be cut back to 5 feet?
Absolutely. That having your direct contact between a tree and a home is bad for several reasons. One of them is, yes, it gives a direct conduit for fire to spread from the tree to the home or vice versa. And the other thing is it's a good path for rats to take, and you get wood rats. They come and make a home in your attic, which is less than desirable. They keep you awake at night. And the last thing too is it transmits a lot of moisture and could create rot situations. So three points why homeowners should want to clear trees away from their homes and keep a good distance between the roof and the rest of the property, the house.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have a question and a comment there, Mike. Fire Chief, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is in regards to the telephone wire or electric wires that run through the canyon. And in observation of them, it seems to me that there are lots of what look to me like potential close encounters with trees, and they look like significant upper canopy trees because the wires run so high through the canyon. Is that a potential fire hazard? Are those fire hazards in and of themselves, or are they not a fire hazard, nothing to worry about if trees sway into them as those winds do come in from the ocean side? Thank you.
Yeah, certainly in Carmel, we have lots of experience with trees and power lines interacting unfavorably. And that is a risk. And I mean, I think it's pretty common knowledge that PG&E has been implicated on a number of fires in the state due to faulty equipment and equipment issues that have ignited the fires. That area is the responsibility of PG&E, and we do also lean on them very heavily to maintain their entire infrastructure. I don't know exactly what their schedule is on that particular stretch. I know that they're working in the general area. Actually, they should have completed a large amount of the work in the general area last month. They were working more to the north, I know. So we do work with them and do follow up with them to ensure that they maintain the clearance around the lines, as does the PUC.
Any other questions from the commission?
Just to add to that, for the trees that are in town that PG&E is monitoring, that's where all those different colors of spray paint come in. So they'll have a dot on the street side of the tree lower down, and that just means that they're monitoring the tree. So they're keeping an eye on it. And every year the color changes, and sometimes different inspectors have different colors. So the colors don't indicate anything. It's just that there's a dot. That means that the tree's been inspected.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, then why don't we open it up for if there are any public comments with respect to fire prevention for the Pescadero Canyon? Anyone? Okay, well, Chief, thank you very much. This has been very helpful, and I know a lot of people are concerned, and I guess, Bob, this is available. I mean, if we know people who are in that area and are wondering what's being done, they can access this presentation, correct?
Well, certainly we could put it on our website if the chief wants to send it to us. Also, about a year ago, the chief and CAL FIRE and Pebble Beach and the city, we all kind of got together and talked to the local homeowners there. And it was very much the same concepts as what the chief told us just now. But those people, most of those people know the same information that you have tonight.
Okay. Okay.
But it
Well,
wouldn't
think
hurt to
about
have-
it. Think about whether it would be worth putting it on the website. I found it very
Sure would.
informative. So, okay.
I'm
Thank you,
more than
Chief.
happy to share it. You're
Okay,
very
great.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Chief.
Next item is an update on the climate action and adaptation project.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Let me see if I can present.
Just for those who don't remember, this is Anya Martellet. She's our environmental compliance manager. And she did this presentation, almost identical presentation to the city council on Monday evening.
Monday.
So if you saw it then, it's going to be boring, but if you didn't see it yet, it's a fantastic presentation.
Good.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. So, yeah, so this is a more or less a repeat of the presentation I provided on Monday. So a little bit of background on our project. The Climate Action and Adaptation Project was included in our 2019-2020 CIP budget. It was subsequently defunded due to COVID in the spring of 2020. We formed a climate committee in the fall of 2019, and that includes 8 members. We have 2 council members, Jeff Barron and Carrie Theis. We have 4 members of the public, including John Hill, who is a renowned architect and a business owner in Carmel. We have Michael LePage, who is the chair of the Planning Commission and who has done some research on climate change impacts. There is Scott Lonergan, who is on the board of the Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve and who has business and technical professional background. And there is Lynette Zimmerman, who has extensive executive experience in human resources and communications. And we have 2 staff members, myself and Evan Court, who is associate planner in the planning department. So we have been meeting monthly since November of 2019. We paused in March through June due to COVID, and we have restarted our monthly meeting since July of 2020. We developed a mission statement, which states that we will assess the threats and challenges of climate change as they relate to our community by seeking input from experts and local constituents. We will use these inputs to develop actionable plans to mitigate those threats and educate the community. We have 2 elements of our projects. The first is climate adaptation. The first is climate adaptation, which involves developing strategies to adapt to the changing climate. And the second is climate action, which involves developing strategies to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So our progress to date, we have developed work plans to guide our climate adaptation and action planning processes. We have developed a matrix of climate change hazards and city resources that could be impacted by them. We have identified sources of information and data gaps on the impacts of climate change locally. We have received the greenhouse gas inventories from MBAG for 2005, 2010, and 2015. We've started outreach to community groups and regional partners, and we've started a monthly presentation series. So our public outreach is 2-pronged. We are doing outreach to community organizations about our project. So there's been several presentations that have been made by members of the committee to several organizations. So far, the Rotary Club, the Carmel Residents Association, the Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve, the Chamber of Commerce, and local schools. And we're also receiving presentations by other organizations which are helping us better understand the vulnerabilities of the city of Carmel. So some of those presentations have included Carmel Area Wastewater District, the American Institute of Architects Monterey chapter, the City Forester, the Monterey Fire Department, Monterey County Office of Emergency Services, Greg D'Ambrosio and David Schonman also on the Carmel shoreline. So we've heard quite a bit in those presentations. So I'll give you a little snippet of some of the information we've heard. The fire chief that just spoke actually spoke quite a bit about wildfire, so I won't go into a whole lot more detail than what he's talked about. But they did provide a great presentation to us, as well as the American Institute of Architects on wildfire vulnerability and reducing those vulnerabilities. So just to mention, the north and east side of Carmel are in the very high fire hazard zone. That's the zone shown in red on the map on the right here. And Carmel-by-the-Sea is in the lower left-hand corner of the map. So you can see the north and east edges of the city are within that zone. The chief mentioned the Defensible Space Inspection Program that they initiated, so I won't go into any more detail about that. Also, we've heard that wildfire vulnerability can be reduced by better siting, better landscape design, and also better building materials. So one of the potential climate adaptation report action items might be to update our planning guidelines and for landscape and building design to reduce vulnerability on private property. We've also heard from Carmel Area Wastewater District on our wastewater system, and particularly our wastewater treatment facility. That's the facility you can see in the photo on the right. It's located at the mouth of the Carmel River. They have done some studies recently, and based on the analysis, they anticipate they will need to relocate the wastewater treatment facility by 2062. That's just 40 years out. The most likely options would be to retreat up the valley or to connect to Monterey One water, both of which would be very expensive options, upwards of $100 million. The Carmel Area Wastewater District infrastructure also includes sewer systems, sewer lines, and pump stations along the coastline. So some of these will need to also be relocated. And so a potential report action item for this, since Carmel Area Wastewater District is not under the jurisdiction of the city of Carmel, might be to assign a liaison to COD for adaptation planning. We've also heard from Sarah regarding the forest. She did let us know that actually the forest does provide a lot of climate benefits, including capturing runoff, improving air quality, and sequestering carbon dioxide. But climate change is providing quite a bit of tree stress, including increased heat, more variable water supply because of more uneven, or the storms don't come as often or are more unlikely, more drought years, and also reduced fog. And as you all know, our Carmel urban forest lacks age and species diversity. So a potential report action item would be to recommend a public process to update the Carmel-by-the-Sea Forest Management Plan, including updating tree species and density objectives. And we've also heard from David Schonman and Greg D'Ambrosio on our Carmel shoreline. The shoreline is affected by tides, waves, storms, and human actions. And we have quite a bit of coastal infrastructure, including revetments, sand ramps, and seawalls. Some of our seawalls are undercutting because of erosion and retreat of the surrounding sandstone. They identified 10 hotspot areas where there was significant damage after big storms in 1982-83. Actually, the photo on the right is post 1982-83 storms. And so a potential report action item for this might be to develop a shoreline monitoring and maintenance program. Now, these are not all the action items that we might come up with for each of those items, but those are examples. On the climate action side of things, we have received the inventories for 2005, 10, and 2015. And that's the graph on the right sort of shows our community greenhouse gas emissions for those 3 years. As you can see, the numbers are going in the right direction, where our emissions are going down since 2005. And we are receiving our next inventory for 2018. We will be receiving it likely in January of 2021. So coming up soon. While we are going in the right direction, we do have some goals and targets. It's fairly stringent. The first is law. And so it is a requirement, and it's 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. And the second is an executive order goal of carbon neutrality by 2045. So that's not law yet, but this has given us an idea of where the state is going. In graph format, the blue dots are where our emissions have been, and the red dots are where our emissions need to go by 2030 and 2045. So we still have a ways to go to get to where we need to be. So our next steps on public outreach, we are going to have some very interesting presentations coming up. In December, our next meeting is going to be next week, next Thursday. We'll have the USGS present on their Cosmos model, which is modeling the combined impacts of sea level rise and coastal storms on the California shoreline. And they have done, it's fairly detailed modeling, and they're just finishing the results for the Monterey Bay area and Carmel Bay area. So we will be getting advanced view of what the results are showing for Carmel Coast. And we will be getting a presentation from Bob about our storm drain master plan, which was just completed this year. In January, we're looking to hear from PG&E, the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, and the Monterey Regional Waste Management District. So on the climate adaptation side of things, our next steps will be to continue the public outreach. Then we will complete our vulnerability assessment. Based on the vulnerability assessment, we will define climate adaptation strategies. And we're anticipating to have the final report done by fall of 2022. We will be doing some updates to City Council in the meantime between now and then, but fall 2022 is our goal. On the climate action side of things, I just mentioned that we will be receiving our 2018 greenhouse gas inventory shortly. For future steps, we are going to need some consultant support. We have greenhouse gas emissions forecast and quantifying emission reductions of various strategies. Those two elements we're not going to be able to do in-house, and we're going to need some support. And we're estimating that that's going to be in a $15,000 to $20,000 range, which is not currently budgeted. So any questions? And at the bottom here is the webpage for the Climate Committee, which has all of our prior presentations, all the slides that we've seen so far.
Thank you, Agnes. That's a pretty sobering report. Questions from the commission?
Agnes, this is JC. I have a question. How can the Forest and Beach Commission partner with this committee to get your message out? What kinds of things can we do together? What are your thoughts there?
That's an excellent question. Definitely getting the word out to as many people as possible, because I think there's a lot to learn about climate change and its impacts and our vulnerabilities and how we can improve, how we can reduce our vulnerabilities. I have not given too much thought about how the forest, I think there's some ways that we might be able to interact with regards to some of the practices that will help with the forest and climate change. since there is some interest with the climate committee in improving, in updating the forest management plan. And I think there's interest with the Forest and Beach Commission, obviously, with doing this work. So I could see where that could be a place where we could interact. Also with the shoreline management plan, if that needs to be updated, which is likely because that was completed a while ago. So those could be places where I could see the two groups definitely interacting and working together.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, this is meant to be like an introduction on what's the climate committee all about? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? It doesn't mean that you'll never hear from Agnes again. So I think when you get a little bit further down the road, when they start going into the shoreline management and beach impacts and the forestry impacts, I think at those key points along the way, she'll be back with some more information and get the commission's feedback and ideas on some of those specific topics. But you can kind of see the climate committee is really all encompassing. It includes home building materials and utilities, all kinds of different things. So it's well above just forest and beach stuff.
Agnes, is your committee tracking the changes in temperature on the Monterey Peninsula over the last few years?
We're not doing that ourselves. There are, I believe there are places where we can get that information. We are using so we're not doing the research ourselves, but we're using research that's been done by the state and by other, local agencies and local information. So we've done quite a bit of research on data that's available locally, and there's quite a bit of data. And the state of California has a lot of available information to help with climate adaptation planning, including modeling of temperatures, past and into the future, modeling of sea level rise, modeling. So quite a bit of information is available from the state.
Yeah, I think if we track the temperature, I think we could see some kinds of patterns that might be useful in planning mitigation measures, if any. That's what I was wondering if you've been tracking, because I'm sure the data's out there in space somewhere. It's just a matter of tracking it and graphing it to see.
Yeah, no, it's definitely out there. We haven't graphed it ourselves, but like I said, the scientists have. It's definitely going up. There's no question about it. Even locally, I think we can all feel it. But yes, we're relying on more statewide data than collecting the data ourselves.
Also, if I may, Agnes, on your website, you have not only the packets from the climate committee, but there's also resources that are available, many of which are state or
Yeah, I'll actually mention that for each of the presentations that we've received, we create a summary, and for each summary, we also have a list of resources that are associated with what the presentation was about. And so we're gathering a lot of resources from quite a few different agencies to help us with our planning.
Okay, Agnes, thank you. Unless there are any other questions, this is obviously going to be an ongoing dialogue and process that we will have with this committee over the next few years. And I know Sarah has already been, and we've mentioned a few times, that we need to probably move towards when we require trees to be replanted or new trees to be planted, we need to be cognizant of doing so with an eye towards climate change. So any other questions for Agnes? Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Again, it's concerning, to say the least.
Mr. Chairman,
we now have a, yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Did you want to open up to the public for the climate presentation?
Sure. If we have any members of the public that want to respect to this date on the climate action and adaptation project?
Worth a shot.
All right, good. Moving on, now is the time for any public appearances. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern that are not on the agenda during public appearances. Each person's comments shall be limited to 3 minutes or as otherwise established by the commission. And matters not appearing on this month's agenda will not receive action at this meeting, but may be referred to staff for a future meeting. You're not required to identify yourself, but it is helpful if you would, so that we can have your name and identification in the minutes of the meeting. Is there anyone that would like to make a public appearance at this time? Okay. Public appearances are closed. Do we have any announcements from staff or from members of the commission? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda. That's to approve the November 12, 2020 meeting minutes as presented. Do we have any, has anyone, have people reviewed the minutes? Do we have any proposed changes or modifications? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 12, 2020 meeting?
Move to approve.
I'll second
A
that.
second.
Any discussion? Hearing not. Ms. Fenton, would you poll the members of the commission?
Yes. Burling,
Yes.
Cadell,
Yes.
Mosley,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Aye.
Saron.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have two matters for public hearings. The first of these is the approval or denial of an application to remove 6 trees at Casanova Street, 5 southeast of 12th Avenue. And I'll turn it over to the city forester for a presentation.
Yes, we have an application to remove some additional trees at a property that we visited in the past on Casanova. It's a double lot. The house is being demolished to build a new structure with an attached garage and an accessory dwelling unit. The plans have gone past this commission, and we did approve to remove 2 trees that were in fair condition that would be in the footprint of the building. So that's ongoing. So what's happened now is the property owner, Mr. Tesher, has come in with a forest management plan for the 2 parcels. So basically saying how he wants to manage the remainder of the trees that are going to persist through the lifetime of the property. So he submitted this plan that was drafted by his consulting arborist. It's very thoughtful, it's scientifically sound, and it recommends the removal of additional trees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional trees. And if you look in the attachment, there's a site map. And you'll note that the trees that are being proposed to be removed are on the property line, and they're crowding out other trees that are more desirable. So the species that are up for discussion are an acacia, 2 cherries, 2 pittosporums, and a redwood. So aside from the redwood, the rest of those trees aren't really on a recommended list or all that desirable. The redwood in question is very close to another redwood that's in much better condition. So the thinning of these trees will make it more easy for the desirable trees to have access to light, nutrients, and moisture. So they'll be able to have a longer life and be able to grow to be larger trees. So it's my recommendation that we go ahead and approve the permit application to remove the additional 6 trees.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions of the city forester? Okay. Do we have a presentation or do we need to hear from the homeowner or the homeowner's consultant? Is Mr. Ono here? Or?
Mr. Tesher, are you on the line?
Hello? Hello?
Hi, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Is this Mr. Tesher?
Okay, this is Chris Tesher.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
It is I. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I have nothing really to add other than hopefully the commission will accept the recommendation of the forester. These trees that we're trying to take down have no impact on construction. They're far away from the construction. And it was mainly the arborist recommendation to take these down in order to facilitate the growth of the trees that are significant and that we really want to preserve. So that's basically it, and hopefully you'll approve the recommendation.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Tesher by members of the commission? Okay. Do we have any members of the public that would like to be heard on this matter? Okay, guess this is Christmas time. Okay, then we'll close public comment, and it's open. It's open for discussion by the commissioners.
Well, I certainly would, Sarah, without an H. I think your presentation would certainly encourage me to accept it. It sounds like a very reasonable proposition.
Okay, Al, you raised your hand.
Yes. This site has some wonderful trees on it that have been appear to have been preserved in the proposed plans. So I fully support the removal of the acacia and these other trees, which are really shrubs that have grown. And I believe even the redwood, removing that will probably improve the health of the one adjacent to it. So I could support this recommendation because I think he's done a great job with the site.
Okay. Commissioner Mosley, do you have a comment?
I went out there again today and I agree completely and I saw that it was not a big loss except for the redwood tree. But as Sarah explained, if it's going to help the health of its neighbor, I think I have no problem moving forward with this either.
Okay. I mean, there are multiple redwoods on the site that we really want to protect and encourage growth and want to keep them healthy. So you're right. Commissioner Myers, JC, did you?
Well, I guess just to that point, it seems to me, and when I walk around town and look at the diversity of our trees, redwood seems to be one of the trees that I feel like we have less of. And in this particular instance, I really just kind of don't understand. And I see redwood growth all the time when you travel around the state where redwoods grow, and oftentimes they grow in very close proximity to one another. That's just the way in which they spawn and grow. And I don't really understand, since it's not a construction impact issue, it's not a home impact issue why the redwood needs to be taken out. The others, I get it, for sure. It just seems to me like it's not necessary in the big scope of it all. The redwoods will be healthy. They'll figure out, who's going to be the dominant one and who's not going to be, and they'll continue to grow. And for me, everything that the foresters presented, I'm in support of outside of the removal of this redwood.
Sarah Davis, would you like to respond? Make a comment?
Sure. So, yes, in their natural habitat, redwoods can grow very close together. I agree, they can be close together. It's just in an urban setting, traditionally, we space trees a little bit further apart. I don't really see that big of a problem with keeping the redwood. Yeah, I could go either way. The other redwood that it's close to, there is a note that it had been popped in the past, so number 17. So keeping number 11 and seeing how the two grow together and which one thrives more, that could be meaningful.
Okay. Well, what are the consequences for redwood once it's been topped? Is it more susceptible to issues or problems, or maybe or not? I just don't know.
Yeah, so topping is never a good thing, because what happens when you cut the branches off, lots of branches start to grow out from that point, and they're not attached as strongly. So the new growth tends to break more often. But you can do restorative pruning to a top tree to restore that central leader. So that could be a path of action too.
Okay.
Yeah, really, topping is just about the future growth isn't very structurally sound.
Okay, well then it may make sense to keep the redwood, check back in 10 years and see how they're both doing and deal with it then. Maybe it is a little premature to take out the proposed the one redwood that's proposed for removal. What do other people think?
Well, I think I think the first judgment seems fine. Taking the redwood out once the house is built and if it becomes a large redwood is a little more dangerous. I don't think we need to keep having huge numbers of trees. I think what we can do to make the trees the ones that we do keep more special is kind of an area that Carmel needs to look at, frankly.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think what I'm hearing a little bit is we're not sure which of these two redwoods, the one that's been topped or the smaller one that's next to it, would become special. And it may be more prudent to wait a little bit and revisit it, that one issue, to see if the redwood that's been topped doesn't do so well a few years down the road. I don't know. I'm just saying that seems to be what I'm hearing. Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
I thought Sarah Davis said that her first opinion was definitely that the one should go. So I don't know where you're picking that up, Mike, that right, it's not certain.
Yeah. Sarah,
hello, can you hear me?
I don't care.
Hold up, one at a time.
This is Chris Tesher again. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chris. But Chris, let us call on you. This is really we've heard from you, but this is really discussion. Although if you have some factual, if you can give us some more information about the topping of the one redwood, maybe that would help facilitate the discussion.
So again, I'm an urban forester, so I think of things in terms of city design and not so much how they naturally occur in a forest. So my tendency is always to recommend having trees planted far enough apart for them to grow to maturity without conflicts with other trees. But yes, redwoods do grow very close together in natural settings. So we can wait and see what happens.
Okay. Well, I mean, do you, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Sarah, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have an opinion or a recommendation as to whether, after having this discussion, it would be better or worse or a push in terms of eliminating the one redwood? I mean, is there in your mind, is there a clear preference or recommendation one way or the other, or just don't know, or don't have a strong feeling? I shouldn't say don't know, because you know a lot more than all of us. So I'm just trying to get your best advice.
I guess I really don't have that strong of a feeling, because they're adjacent to one another on the property line, adjacent to a driveway. I would say perhaps if we waited 2 years until after construction was complete and then reevaluated those two trees, I would have a stronger opinion.
Okay. Okay. And Sarah, does that answer your, Sarah Burling, Commissioner Burling, does that help your responsive? Okay. Other people, other commissioners? Commissioner Mosley or Soroyan? Okay. Hearing nothing, I would invite a motion. Do we have a motion to make to either accept the city forester's original recommendation, or accept the recommendation that we withhold a decision on the redwood, go ahead and allow removal of the 5 other trees, the pittosporum and the cherry, hold up on the redwood for 2 years? Do we have a motion to that effect either way?
I'll go ahead and make that motion, Mike, that we accept the recommendation of the forester with the amendment that the redwood in question not be removed and potentially be considered at a later date.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. No, we got it out. Any further discussion? Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut anybody off. Did somebody else want to make comment? Okay. Ms. Fenton, if you would poll the commission.
Leslie?
Have we lost Leslie?
She's still there.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
He's still there.
Maybe you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, my phone
we can
muted
hear you.
me. So, okay, Berlin.
That's okay.
Sarah Burling,
Yes.
Charlene Mosley,
Yes.
J.C. Myers,
Aye.
Al Soroyan,
Yes.
Michael Cadell.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Leslie. Now we have the final public hearing matter, approval of denial to remove a magnolia tree at 4th Avenue 2 northeast of Monteverde. And does the city forester have a presentation on this?
Yes. Real quick, let's check if the applicants are able to unmute themselves so they can speak in a moment. Will and Beth, are you still there? Okay, well, we'll let
Do they
them.
need a *6 or?
Yeah, *6, or you can always hang up and dial back in, and you'll come in unmuted.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear
Okay,
us
great.
now?
Yep, we can hear you. Okay, now we can get started. All right, so there is an application before the commission to remove a magnolia at the Meitzner residence on Monteverde. The tree, from the photos you can see, the tree is healthy, it's in good condition, but where it's situated, it's adjacent to a small landscape wall. And it appears that the roots of the tree are damaging the landscape wall. Also, there's concern that the roots of the magnolia are causing the pavers in the patio area to be raised and become a tripping hazard. So the applicants value that outdoor space, and they would like to be able to use it more without the fear of the tripping hazard. I recommend that the tree not be removed, and that the issue with the pavers be addressed as a pavement issue rather than a tree root issue.
Okay. Has anybody, Sarah, just a quick question. Oh, sorry. Do we have questions for Sarah Davis?
Can I add a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, this is the homeowner.
Yes.
Where-
Yeah. Mr. Messner, hold on a second. We have to finish with the city forester first, and then we will turn to you. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, I just
Okay.
wanted to supplement the forester's comments.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
The wall and the patio definitely has some cosmetic damage, but not really structural damage. There's no major damage. Not that it won't get worse over time, but it's not really in desperate despair at this point.
Okay.
That's all I want to add.
Okay. Any other questions for the city forester before we turn over to let the homeowner's presentation make a presentation or speak? Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. Is this Mr. Messner?
Mr. Meitzer, yes.
Meitzer, sorry.
Yes. We love this house and we love Carmel. But right now I'm dealing with Parkinson's disease. It's caused me to trip and fall many times. I have 3 friends that are also dealing with it who come to visit. Nobody has fallen so far, thank goodness. This is also, the patio is a fire exit for the house. And if it were to be treacherous to moving through in the dark, I think it's time to put in a new wall, retaining wall, and time to remove the pavers and go with the regular concrete pavers. I hope I'm expressing myself well enough here. It's difficult.
Yes, sir.
It's caused a change in the way our water is diverted. We had to put a gutter on that side of the house to divert the water away because it was building up too much and going to damage the inside of the house. I put the gutter up, and then with the pavers moving up, all the water is running under the pavers, and it's just to me a no-win situation. I can't put the retaining wall back like it should be. I can't get the pavers the way they should be, as long as the tree continues growing and it's a healthy tree and destroying everything with its root. I imagine the next thing to go will be the fence. And at 80 years old, I can't get out there and do what I used to do and take care of it. So that's all I got to say.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Meisner, if I might ask, have you considered? I'm sorry, yes, sir. Hold on just 1 second. This is Mike Cadell, one of the commissioners. Have you considered pulling out those pavers and putting in a deck that would provide a little room for the roots of the tree, but could also provide you with a smooth surface of, a deck made out of
Tricks.
a synthetic material like Trex or something like that? Have you looked into that at all?
I've built many.
It's also a lot easier when you fall, as we have all done. Okay.
Well,
have you considered that for your patio?
Yes, I have. But if you look at the way it's set up, that's really not a good way to go. I've built a number of patios over the year, and the last thing I do here would be put in a patio. What I want to do is dig up those 6-foot rectangular pavers and replace them with concrete and then rebuild the retaining wall. But right now it's old brick in the retaining wall, and that's going to be crumbly. The boards separating the pavers, and these are not little pavers. These are about, imagine, 4 foot by 4 foot. They're heavy pavers, and they're cracking. They are coming up in various areas, not just the one that I showed Sarah. I went down today and looked at them, and we've got numerous pavers moving all around. So eventually something's going to have to happen.
And this is Betty Meinzer. I've often thought about putting in a deck or something like that, but when I go out and look at it, I realize that there's not much distance between the current floor of the pavers and the entryway to the house and the entryway to our yard. And so building something up higher would impact those two things too. And I'm afraid we'd have to keep building out and building out. Because if we build up the entrance to our house, then we have to build up the downstairs hallway too. And it goes on and on.
And it would be a lot more difficult to get out of the house with a deck there in case of fire. And this is one of our main fire exits.
And by the way, our address is 4th Avenue in Monteverde, and we invite anyone who wants to come by and take a look and see what we're talking about to come in. Be careful, don't trip.
And that's something else. If you decide that it stays the same, do we contact our property insurance and tell them about it? And then what are they going to do? Are they going to stay with us or not?
Okay. Other questions for the Meisners? Yes, sir. Let me see if anyone else from the commission would like to ask you any questions before we close. And
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Ryers.
Thanks. I just had a question. I didn't get a chance to visit this property, and so I'm curious what other trees exist in this backyard. Are there other trees, or is this the only tree in this yard?
It's a front yard.
Oh, thank you. This is the front courtyard? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And are there any other trees in this front courtyard, or is this the only tree?
Just what we planted. We planted a lemon and a lime.
Lime tree, bougainvillea.
Only what we've planted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for the Meisners?
Yes,
Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Soroyan. Go ahead.
Is there a step when you come out of the house to the patio, or is it on the same level as the patio?
It's a slope threshold.
So there's no step when you come out of the house?
No, well, there's maybe, there's It has to be at the bottom for just to
Keep
to
the water
put
out,
the
maybe an inch.
door in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at least 6 inches.
6-inch step.
I'm not sure. I'd have to go look. It's got a landing area that the door closes on. Yeah, there's a step. Yeah, there's a step. Yeah, step down.
So if you did remove the concrete, you could put something else in and level it so you don't have a step coming out of the house, correct?
Well, why would I want that? It would flood the house in case of rain. We had a situation here where the road was stopped, the rain and the mud came in, and it flooded our lower downstairs. I would like to keep at least a 4-inch. I don't want to be flush.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have the
Okay,
culvert
any-
that runs through the city. Right.
Okay, any other
Anything further?
questions for the Meisners? Okay, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Meisner. We appreciate it. And we're going to open it up for public comment now. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment with respect to this request? Okay, then we'll close it to public comment and open it up for discussion within the commission. I'm sympathetic. I guess my only concern is I don't know that we have a real good feel for what could be done to preserve the tree. It sounds like the Meisners are going to redo the patio anyway. And I'm just wondering if there isn't a way to do something with a deck or with pavers and maybe create it where you put a seat around the tree or something like that to raise it right at the level of the tree, but keep the level of it elsewhere the same or something. I don't know that I feel like we've gotten enough information. I don't really feel comfortable based on this. Yeah, Commissioner Berlin, go ahead.
Well, I was wondering, I went to look at it. It's a very pretty tree, but I think that people's health come frankly ahead of the tree. But I'm wondering, would it be worth it to wait a month, and that would delay them from being able to sell it and actually look in? I didn't go into the patio, and I just looked from the outside. There's plenty of trees in the area. That is a pretty tree. And I mean, would it help if we saw the patio and
yeah,
maybe even
maybe,
have you along, Al, where you're the builder guy in the group, and
right. Well, I would like, I mean, I just feel like I'm kind of like you. I'm sympathetic to concerns about someone's health, but it sounds like they're going to redo the retaining wall and the patio anyway. And I'm just wondering if there isn't a creative way to do that. That's been explored. But Commissioner Mosley?
I agree with Sarah.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Mr.
I was out
Myers.
there. I'm sorry.
No, Commissioner Mosley, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I went out there today, and it is a beautiful tree, and I would hate to see it go on the one hand. And so if there are other avenues to explore for being able to save the tree and do the necessary construction for the safety of the homeowners, and I know what kind of water damage can happen. There may need to be French drains or something put in to keep that from happening. I'm not sure about the construction issue, but there are lovely trees. It's not like all of a sudden that space is going to look like it's been denuded of trees. There's beautiful oak trees in the neighborhood. It looks great. So I think it might behoove us to have the homeowners do some research on what they may be able to do construction-wise to save the tree, and for us maybe to be able to take a better look at all of the issues.
Okay. Commissioner Myers?
Well, I'm definitely in support of the notion of visiting this property and thinking and through the options a bit more thoroughly. I had a couple questions after looking again at the pictures. Back to Forester Sarah, the age of this magnolia, and then looking at it from both sides of the fence, it seems as if the root zone is pretty well constricted inside and kind of, it feels like it looks to be elevated and then constricted. And I'm just curious how big of a root zone is really needed for this tree to continue to be so healthy. And it's amazing it's as healthy as it is. So I'm just would like some comments from her if possible.
On the other side of the fence, I don't recall that there was another wall. I think it's the root zone is mostly going to be on the other side of the fence in the front yard. There is a slope that goes up towards the property to the east a little bit, but I wasn't really concerned that the roots were that constrained. The wall isn't very tall too, so the roots definitely can go down and underneath and spread out.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? I think there seems to be a consensus that we should wait. The only question I have in my mind is our next meeting enough time with the holidays and everything else? I'm talking about us getting out and looking at it. I'm talking about if we ask the homeowners to explore, come back with something that's a little more substantive in terms of what could be done or what can't be done in terms of preserving the tree and yet solving the unevenness of the patio and making that safe for the family. So I'm just wondering if 30 days is enough, or should we be looking at more 60 days? But is there any further discussion at this point, or are we ready to have a motion? Okay, let me invite a motion. Could we have a motion? I guess I would say 60 days with the holidays and everything else. Is there a motion to table this matter until our meeting in February, and in the meantime, ask the homeowner to explore some options, and in the meantime, every member of the commission will do an insight visit and get a better feel for the patio, et cetera. Is that Commissioner Mosley, are you making that motion or just nodding your head?
No, I'll make that motion. Do I have to say it again?
Okay, good.
You said it perfectly.
I'll second it.
Okay, and there's a second. Okay, Commissioner Burling. Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Fenton, can you poll the commission? Did we, Leslie, or she's?
Okay, my phone just wants to keep muting me. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Burling.
Yes.
Mosley.
Yes.
Myers.
Aye.
Soroyan.
Yes.
Cadell.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next order of business is the consideration of the adoption of a meeting calendar for next year. The staff is recommending two meetings to be moved, one to avoid Car Week and the other to avoid Veterans Day. Is there any approved calendar proposed by staff for next year's meeting?
Leslie, could you walk us through this, please?
Yeah. Every year, the commissions put together a calendar of when their meetings are. And then also on the first one that Sarah has up on the screen right now, you can see when the staff would need and applicants would need to have their items in so that the packet could be prepared. This year, well, next year, actually, in 2021, if Car Week is able to happen, if COVID restrictions have been taken away and we can all gather again, the August meeting would fall right there in Car Week. So I was talking with Bob. He suggested we move it to the following, I gotta look at my chart. Move it to the following week, which would be August 19th. And then in 2021, Veterans Day falls on November 11th, which is the Thursday meeting. So we are recommending moving that meeting to the following week, which would be November 18th.
Okay.
So if anybody has any conflicts with those, or if they want to put them on a different date, before Car Week, after Car Week, that would be up to you and your discussion.
Any discussion? And just again, so we're clear, yeah, just so we're clear, what you're looking at on the screen right now is not the proposal. The two in yellow, the August 12th staff is recommending be actually August 19th, and the November 11th staff is recommending that be November 18th. So any discussion?
You guys are going to have to bring in a birthday cake for me on that 18th.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, we can move it around, JC. We don't have to.
No. I'm perfectly fine with it.
We don't have to spend 3 or 4 hours in a meeting on your birthday.
I'm fine with it. It'll be fine with me. No worries.
Just add birthday cake into the motion.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the meeting dates for 2021?
I move we approve these dates.
And I'll second it.
Okay. Leslie, you want to poll the commission?
Yes. Sperling.
Yes.
Mosley.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes, with a birthday cake.
Soroyan.
That condition.
Cadell.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you. And I will send out a calendar with all the new and current dates on it to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. It's time for the City Forester's monthly report. Ms. Davis.
Hi there. Standard month for November, we did replace one of the vandalized cypress on the scenic pathway that had been missing for a couple of years. So we're getting that reestablished. We didn't have very many failures that month, just one. And it was related to a wind event. We were lucky that happened on a weekend and staff was willing to come in and take care of it. It was blocking in a cul-de-sac so nobody could get out. So we saved a considerable amount of money from our staff volunteering to come in to take care of it. We're continuing to inventory trees as we work along. I'm still getting calls from residents that are concerned that the Monterey pines are going to fall on their homes during the winter storms. So I think just here at the beginning of December, that's starting to taper off. I am getting a lot of plan review requests for solar collectors, which is kind of interesting. Had 5 in a row. Those are the first that I've seen come through in over a year. So that was a little bit of an anomaly. We did go ahead and take out the cypress at the North Dunes that were approved in our coastal development plan. So those did finally come out. Some really exciting things. Our tripper is broken and is in for repair at the shop, so that's slowing us down a little bit. We started putting out the signs for where the new trees are going to be planted. And then we had one stop work order in November, which you will hear in January, where 3 trees were removed unpermitted, and that was caught through an inspection by the building official for an electrical panel. So we'll be hearing about that in January. So we've been working away just like normal. All the tables and graphs are here, and we're building momentum for the year. And the one that I like the most is this one here for 2020. So we have our trees for our winter planting coming in tomorrow. So we're going to get as many in before the end of the year as we can, so that we can get that number up. Right now, we're adding 30 onto the 59 that have already been planted. So look for some new trees around town, which will be exciting. I have some new trees I'm bringing in. So most notably, we're going to be using the Western Redbud as a small tree to plant underneath power lines. And we're also bringing in 2 new oaks. The Quercus wisleyenii, which is the interior live oak. I'm going to try that one out because it can take more heat and drought a little bit better. So see how that one does here as our temperatures increase. And also the cork oak will be a new introduction. So we're going to do a couple of those. With that being said, those are the highlights. Do you guys have any questions about what's gone on in November?
Anything? Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. We appreciate it. And it'll be interesting to see as we change the species planted or at least variations planted, how those do. So keep us posted. Okay, thank you. Now, are there any members of the public that wish to comment on the City Forester's report? Okay, then we'll move to the Public Works Director's monthly report for November 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sarah, could you please put up the cover sheet of the Public Works report to follow along?
Will do. One moment.
This will go pretty quick once we get going.
Yeah, let me find where I put it. Okay. And almost there.
There we go. Okay, just the A, B, C, D. That's I'm going to go through that. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the commissioners. At the City Council meeting of December the 7th, there's 4 things that happened that I wanted you to be aware of. First is Anya did the same climate change presentation to the council as you heard tonight. Carmel Cares, Dale Byrne did a presentation about Carmel Cares and the partnership between their volunteers and city, especially Public Works. And they're making great progress, for example, on the scenic pathway and the Forest Theater and some other places. So that was a real big hit on that presentation. 2 more of business transaction type things. One is based on the money that we got from Ms. Overett for cutting down the eucalyptus trees, council prior month allocated that 25,000, whatever that number was, to the North Dunes.
21.5.
21,500 or 21,250, I think, whatever. So anyway, so that part of that money was went to an amendment to the contract with Joey Canepa, Native Solutions, because she has been working without a contract and on a volunteer basis for the last 6 months, 8 months since COVID hit. So now she has a funding source. Now she's back in business, and she'll be helping with data collection. Although we're keeping the costs down, Anya's will be doing their annual report, but of course we need Joey's detailed technical information and the data. So anyway, that's good news. Like, we can go forward now, back in business on North Dunes. Also a new project. It's an energy audit. The company's called Site Logic. For no cost, they're going to come in. In fact, we might get started as soon as next week. They're going to come into all our city buildings and facilities, including parks and irrigation systems and everything. They're going to look at ways for us to save energy that would reduce greenhouse gas emissions, reduce our electric bill, reduce our gas bill, reduce our water usage, or optimize our sprinkler systems, for example. So it's kind of multifaceted. Once they're done with their energy audit, they'll present it to the city council and possibly to your commission, depending on what we really find. And after that point, then at least we can prioritize what are the most cost-effective ways we can upgrade our facilities. Okay, and this could be from weather stripping restrooms to doing new air conditioning systems at libraries and things like that. So that's going to be a pretty interesting project. Part B is the climate committee meeting. I think you heard all you need to hear on that today. C is the update on the volunteer organizations. We work with, I think Sarah might have mentioned this briefly, we worked with the Friends of Carmel Forest on that demonstration rain garden on Monteverde and 7th in the northwest corner. Hopefully you've got a chance to drive by and take a look at that. It's not planted yet. But it's a rain garden, so it acts as an infiltration from all the water in the street will come down and percolate down into the ground there. And once it's planted, it'll be more aesthetically pleasing. It will slow traffic down. So it's just kind of a win-win. And ultimately, we'll have a little sign that says the city, in partnership with the Friends of Carmel Forest, put this demonstration rain garden together. So that's good news. Carmel Cares. They pulled up a lot of ice plant off the walls down to the beach. So you see some of the stone, those would be the stone steps. There used to be ivy that was just, or ground cover, just all over the wall, even growing onto the steps themselves. So they removed tons of that, which was great. At Forest Theater, they did some mulching, sprucing up. They I guess reconstructed would be the right word, the Forest Theater gate, the front gate. So it looks a lot better now. Their median minders program is increasing. They're getting more and more volunteers to work on more and more medians. We're sharing resources like the new gator that they got us for watering medians and watering trees and things. So that's a great program, and it's just getting better and better. The Friends of the Mission Trail Nature Preserve, they pruned a lot of willows, and they completed the Doolittle Trail. They feel that the Doolittle Trail is now complete. It's all renovated, been regraded, it's been pruned, it's in great shape. They're doing the same now for the Sarah Trail. It's partly completed, but they certainly got the willows done. They've removed a number of acacias near the redwood groves, and we've been removing a lot of piles. So both, I guess I'm happy to report that both North Dunes is back in business. Mission Trail still going strong. Despite COVID, we're still making progress on both of those areas. And miscellaneous, We removed 3 dead pine trees out of the Lester Roundtree Native Plant Garden that the Friends of the Native Plant Garden wanted removed for a long time. So those are gone now. We did that in-house. Onions wrote a draft integrated pesticide plan. We don't have one now. We're certainly going to not use pesticides when we don't absolutely have to. It's only as for a last resort. But now at least we'll have a plan and what environmental controls are necessary to use it and what we'd be using and, for what reason. But again, it's really focused on not having to use pesticides in the first place. But at least we'll have a policy here pretty soon. We were going to bring that to you probably next couple of months to your commission so we can get your fingerprints on that as well. I also would want to encourage you to read the Friday letters. I think most of you do, hopefully all of you do, as well as our monthly reports for both Sarah and my monthly reports. So that's a good way to keep tabs on what we're doing around here. And I don't want to say the last one on camera, so I won't. So anyway, also wanted to thank any commissioners who might not be with us next month. I think they're making some final selections now, and we'll kind of see what happens. So if we don't see Al back, we wish him all the best. I really appreciate working with him. But I don't know. It might be Al. They did not tell me. I do not know what's going on. So anyway, that's all I had to say for today. I'd be happy to answer any questions. You're on mute.
Any questions for the Public Works Director? And I guess, Al, if for any reason you're not reappointed, you can come back to JC's birthday party next November.
Right.
Yeah, I love birthday cake, so I will be back.
That's good. Can't eat too much.
Yeah. We'll get the non-fat one. It's like not healthy.
I will say, at the risk of sounding a bit like a broken record, I've been so impressed with Carmel Cares. I saw the work that they were doing along Scenic several weeks ago, and it was just very impressive. The number of volunteers, their diligence, they were there for hours. And so I was just very impressed. I think we're very fortunate to live in a community where people are that civic minded, and it makes you feel good about your community.
They're also paying for professional landscapers as well to supplement their volunteers. And because of the COVID shutdown that happens on Sunday night, they're banging out whatever they can now through Sunday morning. And then they're going to have to pack it in for at least the 4 weeks that we're in lockdown mode. But
right.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job. Makes a big difference. And in fact, some of the areas of the pathway, you see the edge borders, the wood borders on both sides.
Right.
Under 3 inches of dirt in many areas. That's how many that's how many years of layer after layer of dirt and sand or whatever blew on them, and they were buried. They were buried 3 inches. So yeah, tremendous amount of work, and it's looking way better. And it still has a ways to go, but it's sure looking different.
Thank you. Anything else? And I would like to echo Bob's comments. If for any reason Al is not reappointed, I want to be sure to thank him for his years of service to the city, and it's been an honor, and I hope we see you back next month, but if not, thank you.
Right.
Here.
We know where you live.
Okay, guys, do we have are there any future agenda items that have not already been previously identified? Is there anything else like that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, good. I had to switch to my phone, my computer, and anyway. I'm wondering, the trucks keep getting taller, and on our main thoroughfares, they seem to be damaging the trees because they're taller than the lowest branches of the trees. Is there a schedule that we have where the city goes out to maintain the height of those trees to keep them from being damaged by the trucks and buses when they come back.
So, do you want me to answer that now, or do you want to cover it at the next meeting?
Or do we want to put it on an agenda?
I don't know enough. I'm happy to have a report at our next meeting.
Okay,
Okay, that's good.
How's that?
good. Good.
Okay, guys, everybody, please stay safe. Take care of yourself and your loved ones, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Happy
Happy holidays. Happy holidays to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.